The war was over. For 4 bloody years, America had torn itself apart, brother against brother, state against state. But in April 1865, peace had finally come. Confederate General Robert E. Lee had surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant. The streets of Washington, D.C. were filled with laughter, flags, and hope. People sang in the night air. For the first time in years, the Capitol slept without the sound of distant cannons. And in the middle of it all stood a tired man with kind eyes, President Abraham Lincoln. He was relieved, yes, but not happy. He had seen too much death to celebrate. His heart still carried the weight of every telegram that told him another 1,000 dead. But that night, Lincoln allowed himself a small smile. The Union had survived. Slavery was ending. The nation would heal. Or so he believed. Just a few streets away, another man was watching that same celebration and burning with rage. His name was John Wilkes Booth. To most people, Booth was a celebrity, a handsome stage actor, adored by audiences. Women swooned at his performances. He had charm, wealth, and fame. But inside, Booth was consumed by anger. He hated Abraham Lincoln. He hated what the president had done to the South. And most of all, he hated that Lincoln had spoken about giving the vote to Black Americans. To Booth, that was the final insult. He had once planned to kidnap Lincoln, to exchange him for captured Confederate soldiers. But now, with the South defeated and Lee surrendered, that plan meant nothing. Booth whispered to his friends one night, "Our cause is lost unless we strike a blow that will be remembered for all time." And in that dark corner of a Washington boarding house, a plan began to take shape, one that would change history forever.
Booth gathered a small group of loyal men. Lewis Powell, a former Confederate soldier, strong, silent, and dangerous. David Harold, young and nervous but obedient. George Atzerodt, a drunken carriage driver with a weak will. And Mary Surratt, the widow who owned the house where they met. Their plan was bold, almost insane. They wouldn't just kill Lincoln, they would strike down the entire government. That same night, Booth gave orders. Powell would kill Secretary of State William Seward. Atzerodt would kill Vice President Andrew Johnson. And Booth himself would kill the president. The date was set, April 14th, 1865, Good Friday. That evening, Abraham Lincoln and his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, prepared to attend a play at Ford's Theater, a light-hearted comedy called Our American Cousin. Lincoln was in good spirits. He joked with his staff. He said to his bodyguard, "There's no place I'd rather be tonight than at the theater." But history would remember those words with a chill. Across town, John Wilkes Booth saddled his horse. In his coat pocket was a small Derringer pistol, one shot only, and a long, sharp dagger. He knew every hallway, every shadow in Ford's Theater. He had performed there many times before. Tonight, the stage would be his once more. Inside the theater, the mood was cheerful. The president's box was decorated with American flags. When Lincoln entered, the audience stood and cheered. He smiled and bowed, just a weary father trying to enjoy an evening of peace after years of war. The play began. Laughter filled the hall. Meanwhile, Booth slipped quietly into the building. He walked past familiar faces who greeted him. No one suspected a thing. He moved upstairs toward the presidential box. Outside that box sat John Parker, Lincoln's bodyguard. But Parker wasn't there. He had stepped out for a drink during intermission. The door stood unguarded. Booth entered the hallway and jammed a wooden bar behind the door to keep anyone out. Then he peered through a small hole he had carved earlier that day. Inside, the Lincolns sat together, Abraham in a rocking chair, smiling softly at the stage. Booth waited. The next line of the play was famous. It always made the audience roar with laughter. He cocked the pistol. At exactly 10:15 p.m., the line came. The crowd burst into laughter, and in that instant, Booth stepped forward and pulled the trigger. The sound was muffled by the laughter. Lincoln's head jerked forward. Mary screamed. Major Henry Rathbone, sitting beside them, leapt to his feet. Booth slashed at him with his dagger, cutting Rathbone's arm to the bone. Then Booth vaulted over the railing, catching his spur in the flag that draped the box. He fell to the stage below, his legs snapping as he hit the floor. But even in agony, he rose tall before the stunned audience, lifted his dagger, and shouted, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus always to tyrants. "The South is avenged," he cried, before limping off into the night. For a few seconds, the audience thought it was part of the show. Then Mary Lincoln's cry pierced the air, and chaos erupted.